Okay, so hi everyone, good afternoon on a very dull, apparently about to snow Tuesday in London, for those of you watching you live. Today we are talking about combining the power of SourceBreaker and Bullhorn Analytics. I'm really going to be giving you 3 workflows to drive revenue within your business. Today, my name is Adam Dale. I was the CRO pre-acquisition at SourceBreaker and now one of the strategy directors working in the overlay team. And I'm joined by Joe McGuire.
Afternoon, everyone. I held a similar role as Adam at Cube19 pre-acquisition as CRO and also work as a strategy director for analytics now at Bullhorn.
Perfect. So yeah, you're in good hands. 2 product experts for both the SourceBreaker and the Bullhorn Analytics softwares. Okay, so today's agenda, we're going to look at really a why are we here? You know, what have we decided to do this webinar for, and what are the market dynamics behind it? We're going to give you a brief introduction, and don't worry, they are brief, into Bullhorn Analytics and SourceBreaker for anyone who maybe uses one of the products or not the other, or uses neither of them, just to give you that baseline for when we start to go into the workflows. We're then going to really look into the data and chop into that and work out, you know, customers that are utilizing these platforms, why are they using them, and what are the results that they're driving within their businesses. And we're going to finish the webinar with the actual workflow. So the idea of today's session isn't that here's 3 workflows, the only ones that you can take into your business, but to really give you some food for thought of how you can combine parts of the products together to get a net outcome that's bigger than utilizing each one individually. And then we're going to final today with the Q&A. So the Q&A, for anybody who's not familiar with Zoom, just click onto the bar. There's a Q&A tab. You just type your questions in there. You can type them throughout the whole of the webinar, and we'll come to them all right at the end. Okay, so one of the things we wanted to talk about is, you know, as we mentioned in our intros, both Cube19, now Bullhorn Analytics, and SourceBreaker previously were partners of Bullhorn, working within the marketplace. And since November 2021 for Cube19 and July 2022 for SourceBreaker, there have been 2 strategic acquisitions for the Bullhorn business. And now what we're doing as a collective is really taking these products and bringing them into that Bullhorn universe, and being able to look at leveraging not only each product individually, but how can we combine these different products and actionable insights and different pieces of information to have a net outcome that is greater than the sum of its parts for our customers and potential customers for Bullhorn. So this is going to be the first webinar that we've got running today. You're going to see lots of content and other webinars coming out of how we can really build on these acquisitions and start utilizing these product sets together. And really what that's ultimately doing is to really create this holistic vision of the Bullhorn platform. And rather than thinking of everything in slightly different parts and being fragmented across the Bullhorn universe, that you have the core parts of your Bullhorn system that are then supplemented with SourceBreaker, with automation, with analytics, and then any other additional marketplace partners that you will need to fill those gaps for, you know, what you're trying to achieve as a business. So you'll see over the coming 12 months, 18 months is a lot more of this from us, and how we're going to really propel that Bullhorn platform forward. So what are we doing and what are the steps we're taking to create this Bullhorn platform? Well, you may have seen in some of them already. We're looking for this consistent UI experience. We're launching Bullhorn single sign-on, but the main one here is we're having a new internal data service, which means that these products now are straight behind the firewall if you have within the Bullhorn platform. So have data access available, which is more than we ever had previously when both Cube and ourselves were marketplace partners. So it allows us to do loads of exciting stuff that we weren't able to do pre the acquisitions. So with that in mind, we've looked at what the market conditions are, and I'm going to pass you over to Joe, who's going to look at where we are right now and why have we started with this combination of products.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. So yeah, if we take a look at, I suppose, a more holistic view at the market, we're in a cyclical industry, and recruitment often closely follows the economic cycles that we see. And there's good times and there's not so good times. And when the economy is booming, there tends to be lots of jobs available. Naturally, unemployment falls, and we start to see that we get a talent shortage. If you go next slide, please, Adam. Now, when this happens, ultimately, I think we've seen like the biggest example of a talent shortage in recent times, and I don't think massive amounts have changed recently, even though we are seeing the economy change slightly. Now, the impact of this on recruitment companies is yet to be seen. Like, as the economy sort of switches and we move to a point where jobs are slowing down slightly and candidates maybe are more available in the market, we start to see where we are on this at the moment, and we're slightly after this peak. But for me, that Adam, sorry, next slide. We see that slightly after the peak, which ultimately means there's still a huge opportunity in the market. Jobs are still high, candidates are still quite sparse. So it's really about understanding this and the different stages we're at, and ultimately how we can keep ahead of it and pivot as quickly as possible. Now, companies that are investing in technology, have readily available data, and are using that to inform strategy, tend to be the ones that pivot the fastest and stay ahead of the curve, whether market conditions are good or bad. And that's really about what we want to talk about today. How can technology and data help inform all of these things? Now, to give a quick introduction into Bullhorn Analytics for anyone that's not familiar, it's a platform that helps recruitment companies achieve highly scalable growth. We deliver real-time actionable insights to everybody in the business, which ultimately show them the actions to take today to be more successful tomorrow. The idea of that is it helps improve client, candidate, and colleague experiences. Now, the key differentiator for this platform to other reporting systems or processes is that it was designed purely for recruitment, and more specifically for Bullhorn customers. Now, this availability of data means that we can deliver insights to every level of the business, not just leadership. The platform, is intuitive, so non-technical users can answer questions about their business and help them improve their performance. And ultimately driving Bullhorn adoption the whole way through. It's one of the biggest challenges we see. How do you get recruiters to use systems? So we found ways and mechanisms within the platform to give direct value to end users and help managers and L&D understand where gaps in the process are so they can train users accordingly. Now, when we think about data, or when I think about data, I very much think about it as a journey. And every recruitment company is on this journey. It just depends where they are and how they get to the next stage. Now, I don't want to focus too much on flying blind, because I truly believe that most companies are actually way past this stage now. Where I think most companies are is actually in this hindsight segment, which usually means there's a reliance, or sometimes an over-reliance, on a small group of people in a company to deliver information to the masses. And by the nature of this data, the time it takes to collate the information and distribute it means that, unfortunately, it's always backwards looking. It tends to be volume-based metrics. How many things did someone do yesterday or last week? And it's an important part of the journey, but you can't change the past, unfortunately. You can certainly learn from it. That's why it's important. But a lot of companies now are really investing a lot of time, energy, and money in trying to move on to this next stage of oversight. Now, the challenge with oversight is that what tends to happen is companies are automating their already existing reporting. So the needle isn't necessarily being moved significantly, because it's a costly way to get an automated version of your hindsight reporting. So it still tends to be volume-based, backwards looking. There are certainly advantages to this, and it's certainly a very important part of the process in terms of speed to data, speed to information. But we feel there's a really valuable stage on past this. Some companies can hit the good enough line because they've invested so much in it. But really, what we're trying to do with Bullhorn Analytics is deliver this foresight stage. Real-time actionable insights to everybody in the business. That's from consultant upwards. Now, this shows them the actions to take today to be more successful tomorrow, so they can capitalize on opportunity before it's past. I've mentioned actionable insights a few times. So to give you a bit of an understanding of what I mean by this, more traditional standard metrics would be volume-based KPIs. So for instance, how many candidates did someone add to the system? Again, important to track that, and Bullhorn Analytics can certainly help you do that. But we're trying to prompt the next action for the recruiters, remind them of the millions of things they have to do every day before the opportunities pass so they can capitalize on that opportunity. So for instance, we can deliver metrics like candidates added to the system that haven't been contacted yet. So again, it's that prompt of what someone should do next. Another example might be how many interviews someone's booked. So ultimately, it's an important metric, very important metric. But in a candidate short market, making sure that that candidate is being presented to multiple clients is the best way to place more of them. So we can introduce metrics like candidates that have got an interview that haven't been sent anywhere else. And the final example is contractor redeployment. Now, these metrics do go everywhere through the process, from BD through sourcing, deployment, and redeployment as well. But ultimately, contract redeployment is a really important metric if you do any type of contract or temp. But how do you improve that number? Well, prompting recruiters to contact the finishers that are coming up that haven't had the relevant activities to redeploy them is ultimately the key to that.
Cool. Thanks, Joe. And for those of you who haven't come across SourceBreaker before, so SourceBreaker is a search and business development platform that enables recruiters to take their sources and ways that they work right now, supercharge those and get them ultimately to more revenue generating activities. How we do that is in three core ways. So the first, and one of the things we're really known for originally, is the search element. So this allows you to be able to search your Bullhorn ATS, external CV databases, and LinkedIn with a super-powered search from SourceBreaker's machine learning ontology. So what is that, Adam? You said just a load of keywords. Well, what it is really is ultimately when a recruiter comes and types in, I'm looking for a Java developer, what the platform will do is it will give them all the different versions or variations of how someone could express that particular job title, creating a really enhanced search that then that recruiter goes and utilizes across all of their platforms. So creating not only a search that uncovers additional top talent, but does it very efficiently and enables them to search much more effectively across all of the resources that they currently have. We then have the business development side, which we call sell. So this is giving your recruiters leads to be able to go and see who is hiring right now in their market and who they can pitch these candidates into. So as Joe mentioned, candidates that are at one interview, how can we get them across to multiple interviews? And this is where we'll start to connect the dots for you. We also have a whole suite of business development tools, including intel data. So who is getting rounds of funding? So not only are they hiring right now, but who's going to be hiring in the near future? So giving you not only more candidates to place into the jobs you've already got, but business development opportunities to drive your business forward. And we also then don't live in this utopian world of SourceBreaker, where you find a candidate, find a job, make a placement. Anybody who's in recruitment knows if only it was that easy. So we're now able to automate this entire process and have all of this data fed to your recruiters when they need it. So that job that they've got on, when are the new candidates available from the CV databases? Or that golden candidate that they're taking to market, when are jobs available for that person? Whether it be on a new placement or, as Joe mentioned, when you're looking at redeployment of contractors that you've already got out, how can your recruiters be pushed that information at the right time? Okay, so we're on to the first workflow.
Sorry, Adam. So we wanted to give you something practical to go away with today. And we thought we'd start with a statistic first of all. And we've chosen 3 workflows to take you through. There are more. But we felt these really stood out as an opportunity for companies to be thinking about how to get more. So first stat, companies that combine Bullhorn Analytics and SourceBreaker place 17% more candidates from their own CRM or ATS. Now, that means that they're ultimately spending less time searching externally and more time working through the process with candidates. And the reason for this is that their recruiters are empowered with real-time dashboards that prompt the relevant action. And then they have the technology associated to help in overcome whatever the challenge in front might be. So if you go on to the next slide, please, Adam. So each person has their own real-time dashboard in here, but more importantly, they have the actionable insight that prompts the necessary action to take. So you click on one more time. Now, because of this insight and ultimately the data that sits behind it, we're prompting the recruiter that these are the people that need to be spoken to now about this topic. So that then leads into how SourceBreaker can help with this process.
Yeah, so in this situation, we've got new candidates not sent to a job or a contact. It's then been able to identify, as Joe said, that list of people. Let's select one here, Sophia Bell as a CTO. We can then pick up this information and take it into the SourceBreaker platform, reverse engineer Sophia's profile, and now have a list of businesses in the same location as Sophia who are looking to hire that CTO role. So this is giving you the ability to say, we've got this candidate that we're working with, we need to get them to more jobs, and then connecting it with SourceBreaker to actually give your recruiters the jobs to go and pitch them into. So to recap, step one, Bullhorn Analytics identifies the candidates that are looking and are not sent to a job. Then it's going to be able to show you who these people are and ultimately surface that data within Bullhorn. We can then extract that information and run a business development search within SourceBreaker to have now a list of spec opportunities for that particular candidate.
So on to the next metric, candidate placement rate. Now, this is a really interesting one for me because most companies know fairly easily what their job fill rate is. But we, as we mentioned at the start, have come from a very, very candidate short market, and for a lot of industries will remain candidate short for some time ahead. Now, knowing the candidate placement rate is really important because giving yourself a better chance of placing candidates is ultimately a way to make more money in a candidate short market. So companies who use Bullhorn Analytics and SourceBreaker place 11% more of the candidates they are already working with. So these are people that they've already got out to interview elsewhere. They're a known entity to the business. How do you place more of those people? Now, what we do with here is ultimately move into the dashboard again. This sits real time within Bullhorn, and it highlights metrics like candidates that have got an interview elsewhere that haven't been submitted to another role. And from that point, the recruiters can then take it on through the SourceBreaker process.
Yeah, so just as before, you're able to click on the actionable insight, it pops the recruiter with the data. We select one here. So we've got a candidate, here's a financial manager based in Boston in this example. And we're able to go and find, other financial managers, jobs to be able to really go and pitch them into. So what we're really saying with this workflow is, is that whole work smarter, not harder. We've got that candidate already at one interview. We've spent all of that time, effort, and a lot of the time cost in terms of acquiring that candidate. So why are we not working them harder and getting them across to multiple opportunities? Because then the propensity to place them is. Joe, I think you've got that stat of how many, if you get them to 2 and 3 opportunities.
Yeah, so if you introduce a candidate to just one client, on average across the industry, place about 1 in 4, so 25%. If you just present them to one more client, that actually improves to a 1 in 3 fill rate, candidate placement rate. And if you get them to a third client, it actually gets to a 1 in 2 chance of placing. So these marginal gains, as we would call them, can make a significant difference to companies with candidates they already know. They don't have to source any more candidates to be able to make more money because you're getting better at placing the candidates you have a relationship with.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a big belief for both systems and the businesses of, let's not always see candidate acquisition and business development as 2 completely separate processes. BD in a lot of businesses is, Wednesday morning, someone shouts, have we made many BD calls? And then everybody's on the phone trying to win jobs. but winning jobs very sporadically within their market. What we're saying is let's utilize candidate pools we've already spent that time and effort curating and working with, and let's do smart BD to get businesses on for already made candidate pools. Really helping with that period at the moment of candidate availability being lower. So, quick recap. Bullhorn Analytics has said, here's candidates that you're working with that you've not submitted to any other job, with all those reasons Joe mentioned to do that. We can then find that particular candidate within Bullhorn, and again, we can reverse engineer that candidate's profile into SourceBreaker to be able to be given jobs that are an exact match for that candidate, and even set up an automation to be able to be sent any new roles that candidate will be a good fit for.
As we flip over more to the BD side now as well, as we mentioned, we're sort of past the peak of the economic situation right now, but there's still a lot of jobs available. As that does decline, or if it declines going forward, it's even more important to focus on the job fill rate and how to improve that. And companies that combine Bullhorn Analytics and SourceBreaker have a 19% higher job fill rate. Now, this is because consultants are submitting more candidates to jobs faster and often in higher volumes. So it's the same context as the candidates. If you get candidates more interviews, you stand a higher chance of placing them. If you arrange more interviews at a job, you stand a higher chance of filling it. So it's very much similar context throughout, and we're not trying to teach anyone to suck eggs today. We're just trying to demonstrate how much impact can be had with the right focus and the right attention, the right data points and the right tools in front of recruiters. So again, within the dashboard, there's BD focus metrics. So we can start to highlight things like jobs that have recently been added with no CV sent, or jobs without interviews, or maybe it's a certain number. If you're in a perm market and you know that 3 interviews for a job is your optimum, the metrics can demonstrate things like that. Here's the jobs that we've added recently, we haven't achieved a certain milestone within each. And again, there's click-throughs there to drive the action for the recruiter that then carries you through to SourceBreaker.
Exactly. So this time, rather than starting with that candidate, we're now starting with a job. So we've got a solutions architect role at HSBC. We're then able to leverage that SourceBreaker search with the ontology powered by those keywords, making sure we see a lot more candidates than we would previously. We can be super specific with these candidates that we're looking them to work in this situation with investment banks in London. And then we're being able to return a list of candidates here from the CV databases that we've got, but you'll see also at the top, also from our Bullhorn CRM. So being able to really make sure that we're searching our CRM, and again, as the first metric pointed to, make more placements, not only externally and in general, but also from our ATS internally. So we've been able to, again, identify the metric that drives the behavior. And I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I think this is the kind of the flow that we want is, Bullhorn Analytics tells us what we should be doing. And the trouble is sometimes, people then don't know how to go and actually do that and deliver that insight. That's where you come into SourceBreaker. You can really take that job, create that curated search, create it across all of your different platforms that you're searching for candidates, meaning you get to more candidates. Therefore, you can submit more candidates to each job. And again, we can ultimately automate that. So, when we come back to it tomorrow or the next day, any other candidates that have come through during the last 24, 48 hours are pushed to our recruiters right at the time when they can engage with them first.
So thinking back to the cyclical nature of this market, candidates and clients are important regardless of the market conditions. We always need both to be successful in this industry. There's often a lean more towards one or the other, subject to what the market conditions are doing at the time. But we are very much encouraging everyone on this call and in the wider industry to be thinking about how data is utilized within the industry. A lot of the time, data has a negative connotation, a negative reputation, because historically, it's sometimes been used in the wrong way. It's been used to hit people over the head with a stick to do more of something. Now, traditional KPIs absolutely play their part in the process. You know, volume is important. So I often think about it in the terms of quantity, quality, and direction. And too often, it's just quantity that's focused on. So with the right direction and quality around the data, by using actionable insights to prompt relevant action at the desk level and empowering recruiters, combined with the right technology, it helps people evolve into this new value-driven world of actionable insights and higher success rates. And this doesn't require any additional BD or any additional candidate sourcing if used in the right way.
Brilliant. Thanks, Joe. And basically, bang on time, actually 1 minute early, we're going to start the Q&A. So let me pull up the Q&A for everyone. So I've got a couple of questions so far. So Philip, SourceBreaker can be used on the Salesforce Bullhorn platform. Yes, that is correct. We can use that as well as just on the Bullhorn native platform. So I've answered that. Keep your questions coming in. Joe, a question for you. What would you say if they had to focus on one actionable insight, the one that you've seen have most value for customers?
I'm going to avoid answering that question directly because I don't believe there is one. There is so many variations of recruitment. And as we've talked about, market conditions very much vary. I just think it's about focusing on, and it depends what your job role is, of course, as well. If you focused on just sourcing, it's very different if you focus more on BD or if you're a 360 recruiter. So every part of the process is important. And I think it's about having a weighted understanding of where you're at, where the success is, and what you can focus on improving, which is why we built the suite of actionable insights to take people from start to finish.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Okay, so Paul says, hi, Joe. How do you go from Bullhorn Analytics to SourceBreaker? i.e. how was the SourceBreaker search populated from Bullhorn Analytics? So I can take that one. So Paul, so right now everything is completely embedded within the Bullhorn platform. So just as by sounds of it, using analytics at the moment. So where you have analytics as a tab on the left-hand side, you would also have SourceBreaker. Currently, moving from one system to the other does require a manual interference from the recruiter. So taking the data from one and putting it into the other to build the search, whether that be for candidates or for business development. Where we want to get with, with the roadmap discussed at the start, is that we can really, start to automate these things for people to move between the products. But at the moment, it's currently all embedded within your Bullhorn platform. A few.
Hi, Paul, by the way.
A few analytics specific ones, Joe, from Maya. Is actionable insights available for CubeX customers?
So for anyone that's not aware, CubeX was the previous name of corporate edition Bullhorn Analytics. There are some standard early stage actionable insights. So I believe there's 4 as standard that can be made available for customers on the CubeX or corporate edition platforms. If you talk to your account manager or support, they should be able to help you with that. But ultimately, yes, we wanted to make sure that we made these metrics available for every stage of the process, even if you're earlier stage in your data journey as well.
Brilliant. And from Daniel, would the Bullhorn Analytics team be responsible for identifying and working through company-specific caveats regarding their insights, or would we be?
I'll interpret that question. If I don't give an answer, if I've interpreted it incorrectly, please just tap in another question in here. But ultimately, there's 2 sides to that. If you're on the enterprise edition of Bullhorn Analytics, then you have the flexibility to apply your own business logic to not just actionable insights, but other metrics in the system as well, whether that be deduplication or you want it to be 7 days rather than 14 on those job examples. So the team will work with you to apply your logic to those metrics, but it would be down to you to make the required decision on how you want that to perform.
Okay. And have we got any more questions? We've answered everything here. Okay, doesn't look like we're getting any more questions through. So I'm just going to leave you on this slide. So if anyone is anything like me, where they have questions that pop through, straight afterwards that come into your head, then please contact SourceBreaker or Bullhorn Analytics. For any Bullhorn customers, that's best done through your Bullhorn account manager, as they're knowledgeable now around both platforms. But yeah, just leave you with this. For any customers that use these two products versus those within the UK and Ireland that don't, they place 17% more candidates from the ATS. So, not having to go and acquire new candidates every single time. They place 11% more of the candidates that they ultimately work with. So, meaning less effort for having to find candidates every single time, but also deliver a better candidate experience, because more of the candidates that you're working with are ultimately getting placed by your agency, and ultimately have a 19% higher job fill rate. And I don't think I know a recruitment director out there that wouldn't like to fill 19% more of their jobs. So yeah, please get in touch with the team to find out more.
Adam, there's one more question from Daniel, actually, a follow-up.
Oh, cool.
He asked,
have you got it?
Yeah, does analytics give us a terminal such as an SQL terminal to do more granular queries? The answer to that directly is no. If you need more data or additional data mapped in from the ATS, then that's something that the team on our side would do. But we do have modules like a module called Slice and Dice, which actually is a fairly intuitive advanced pivot table that lets you build out reports that are suitable for you. There's a bunch of filtering and logic that can be applied within there as well, but it's not a SQL terminal effectively.
Brilliant. Okay, well, it just leaves me to say thanks to you, Joe. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Adam.
All right, and we'll speak to you all soon.